Ever since I was a little boy, I would wonder what life was like over the horizon. I just had to find my way through life. Yes, it was hard, but as you know, I made it through. I've always wanted to know what it would be like to be a slave. I've always wanted to know their daily life, struggles, and what they've had to do, their likes, dislikes, and all that. But I had never had the opportunity to. Because here in the North, we don't have very much of them, so it's very hard for me to get to know them. So I'm unable to experience new things and meet new people like I've always wanted to. Luckily, I have friends that know about them, and so I'm able to learn as much as I can, but it will never be the real thing. Then I had discovered that there is no time to waste, and I needed to learn as much as I can in order to fulfill my dream. The story of my life began with a former slave named Carter, who I helped escape slavery. He then began to teach me about their ways and how it really felt being a slave and the honest truth about it all. As I began my search for more knowledge, I met a man named Smith who helped me in my learning process and the slave with his escape. He was from Ohio, which is one of the border slave states. So he had more than enough knowledge to inform people and make meetings for a better understanding of slaves. I never had the time to thank him because he later died in war from old age. During our first meeting of informing people and helping them on their way to becoming abolitionists, we only had about 30 to 40 people in the room with us at that meeting. Later, our support grew and we became more than 100 strong in a matter of weeks. Having so many people behind us was such an amazing feeling. Sometimes, we would even tell people about real occurrences of violence and injustice displayed on the slaves. Because of all our power and confidence, we protested against slavery in the kindest way, of course. Some were persecuted, but that had never stopped us from expressing our opinion and telling the truth. Luckily, our voices were heard, and so were others from the other states farther up north. Later, the 13th Amendment was ratified, which was the amendment that abolished slavery or freed all slaves. We were all so happy, but our work was not all done, because we had all these free slaves, but they had nowhere to go. They had no money, no land, and were poorly educated, and so it was very hard for us to help everyone. Thanks to our 100+ members, we were able to provide them with proper shelter and clothing. But the thing was that we couldn't help them all. As time went on, the government realized this was a big problem. So, they created the Freedmen's Bureau, which helped former slaves get assistance. They provided food, medical care, and good working conditions. Now everything was on track, and most everyone was satisfied, except for the South, who now had no free labor. Reconstruction had begun, and our work had been done for the moment. Later, as wealthy Southern planters ran for office and became leaders, they created what was called Black Codes. The Black Codes allowed the wealthy Southern planters to control their former slaves. If a slave did not have a job, they could be arrested or hired out to planters. Another was that African American children were not allowed to go to public schools. This was a big step backward for African Americans because they were now not being treated equal. As the problem persisted, the 14th Amendment was created. The 14th Amendment allowed former slaves to become full citizens with full civil rights. This made sure that the Black Codes would be stopped and everyone would be treated equal. Now everything was settled in all the states, but there was very little work to be done in the South to ensure that it stayed that way. Now all the abolitionists were really able to take a rest and allow everything to run its own course. So, for the next couple of years, yes, there were more disputes to be happening, but we all pushed through it. Because we stood by our opinion and we didn't care what other people thought about us.